Brian Kerr, we've had to come back inside after what's been a pretty exciting, well, I suppose more so the second half than the first half. What did you make of Tottenham's performance overall?
Very mixed, Stephen. First half, they were ordinary enough and couldn't have had any complaint that they went behind. And then they were fortunate that Brighton didn't get a second goal in the second half when Ryan Connolly had that opportunity off the cross from Bernardo on the left, and he caught it with his shoulder. He mistimed the header completely and put it over the bar. And that was the chance for them to get a kind of a comfortable lead, Brighton. But in fairness to Spurs, Mourinho made some changes in the second half that were effective. He brought on Lo Celso, switched Moura over to the left, taking off Sessegnon. And then when Eriksen come on, he really made the difference. But it was the whole momentum seemed to be behind Spurs, and Harry Kane scored a wonderful goal, excellent goal. And then they just drove on Spurs to get the lead. Brighton had one or two opportunities even late on. Spurs probably just edged it overall. Good second half performance though. There was certainly a lot more aggression and dash and precision in the passing in the second half, which was badly missing in the first half, and also on Sunday too when we were here in the game with Chelsea.
Yeah, it's funny because Tottenham, we know with the players that they have there, and especially with the performances today of Dele Alli and Harry Kane and getting the two crucial goals, and you said Eriksen coming off the bench as well. But we know the trademark of José Mourinho teams over the last, since he's been in the game, have been solid, tough defences. So what's going wrong at that end of things?
Well, I think the first thing you'd have to... Well, two things I'd say. One, Mourinho may be well known for that type of thing, probably because of what he did with Porto in winning the Champions League and Inter Milan. But people shouldn't forget the brilliance of his early Chelsea's team, and when we had Duffy and Robin in the wide positions and the great attacking players they had around midfield area, and the positivity of the play that should not be lost. But I know he had a reputation of being ensuring that his teams are always very solid and didn't lose goals, but his reputation was also for closing up matches when his team was ahead and they got the first goal. They're very hard to come back against them. I think the second big thing I'd say is that in the Spurs situation, he's inherited a club and a team whose emphasis has never been on the brilliance of the defence. They've always relied on attacking play and trying to outscore opposition, and that's been the traditions of Spurs, that people expect them to be a front foot team going on the attack, whatever the shape of the team, whether it's a 3 or a 4 at the back, but it's always been about adventurous full backs. And that's what he's inherited now, and he's inherited a situation where they've a very unreliable goalkeeper. The main goalkeeper is out injured. He wasn't playing too well either, Hugo Lloris, but he's out for a long time. Form, who they brought back into the club, haven't let him go in the summer. He was out injured too, so they've had to rely on Gazaniga, who hasn't been very good. The centre halves, I think Vertonghen is starting to show his age. I think in his lack of pace. I don't think left back is his position. The right back position has been a problem for them this season since they let Kerr and Trippier go. I think his hopes for... I think you remember all this is Pochettino's team. It's Pochettino's hopes for Aurier, Foyt, Kyle Walker-Peters. That hasn't worked out well at all. The centre-half positions are reasonably stable, but not very solid, I'd have to say. And then you look at midfield. They don't have a very reliable holding central midfield player. Doyle isn't good enough on the ball. Sissoko does okay, good battering ram up and down the right hand side and in the central position. Winks, lots of potential and good passer, but Mourinho has trusted him less lately. So he's inherited this team that I think he would want to change some of the players. How many changes or what he can get in January remains to be seen. But that's what I would say in fairness to Mourinho. He's inherited a team that haven't been very solid, but he's also inherited the traditions of the club, which is try to win matches by scoring more goals, even if you're conceding against whatever the opposition is. So we've seen lots of high-scoring games, a couple of 3-2s, a 2-1 today, a 5-0, a 4-2. There were lots of high-scoring games since he's come in as manager. I'm sure his desire is to make them more solid and to be as effective in the attacking positions, but I think it's going to take them a bit longer than what we've seen so far, because even today they just about got there, winning 2-1.
Just to ask you as well about Harry Kane, you were very praiseworthy of his performance towards the end of the game there, and rightly so. It was inspirational. He looked out on his feet towards the end of the game, but he was everywhere today, wasn't he?
I think a great performance. He had a hard time against Chelsea. He got two by his chances, by his status, they were good chances in the first half of Chelsea. He didn't take them. He'd have been particularly disappointed when he put over the bar, I think, from the cutback from Sissoko. But other than that, in the match, he found it hard going against Chelsea's centre backs. The trio surrounded him and were rough and physical with him, and it didn't get going, and they never really got into the match. Spurs, they'd only, I think, 5 attempts on goal. Some of them were blocked in the whole match. The lowest they've had in many, many years, I think since 2002. So he had a tough day, but today he stood up as being the leader. In the second half of the match, his performance was brilliant. It was a great goal in his reaction to the save from the goalkeeper. And remember, he had to get over having the goal ruled out in the first half. It was a really tidy finish. But his reaction, having had the left-footed shot saved brilliantly by Matt Ryan, when he came back out to him to adjust his body, adjust his balance, and strike it with such accuracy and firmness that Ryan couldn't get across the goal to save on the near post, was outstanding. And from then on, he continued to lead the line and lead the charge in Spurs' efforts to get the winning goal, and he was involved in the build-up play twice in the build-up to the winning goal.
Just to finish on Spurs, because I want to ask you about the Irish players for Brighton, but to finish with Spurs, they've got 2 away games now against Norwich and then against Southampton. You'd imagine handy 6 points for Tottenham.
Well, there's no handy points for Tottenham, I think. Like most teams in the league, I mean, even Liverpool, brilliant and all as their form has been, they've not won many matches very, very easy this season. A lot of the games have been tight scorelines, 1-0, 2-1, generally tight. Excuse me. But so I don't see Spurs in a situation. Norwich and Southampton are both fighting for their lives, capable of very good stuff.
Both have good strikers as well, Pukki for Norwich and Danny Ings on form as well for Southampton.
Yeah, 2 of the informed strikers in the league. I know Pukki misses a good few chances, but it's amazing he gets so many chances with Norwich. And Norwich have some really good players, Cantwell in midfield, some lovely football they've played. Southampton have picked up a few points and a few wins lately, which has given the manager a little bit of relief. He seemed to be under ferocious pressure, and either of them are capable of giving Spurs problems in their current situation where they're not reliable defensively. But they're 2 games they should be winning if they're going to mount a real challenge for the top 4 spot.
So just to finish then with Brighton, Brian, you'd imagine like they should be going okay now. 21 points is still a decent return for that. Sorry, 20 points I should say. But just look to focus on their Irish lads today. First of all, Aaron Connolly, who, his season was disrupted a bit by injury a few weeks ago, but back in the side there again today. What did you make of his performance?
I thought he did quite well. It's a major step up from where he was playing under 23 football, underage football. Even though he's a regular scorer, I think he's very much at a stage of learning the game. It's marvellous that the manager trusts him to put him into such a good game again. He was left out at the weekend, come on at half time against Sheffield United, but he will be learning very quickly in this environment in which he's playing. It's not all like how it started for him against Spurs back in October, when he'd come on a few sub appearances. He gets a start against Spurs, gets 2 marvellous goals. He hasn't scored since then. Now I've covered a couple of games against Manchester United and today against Spurs he's played in, Certainly against Manchester United, he didn't get much of it. They were very aggressive with him, but that's the respect that he's earned in his early appearances. And he went off injured at half time. Today, a much better performance. Had that big chance to get the second goal, but was always giving Spurs trouble by his running and his movement and his desire to get to the ball first. He linked the play up well a couple of times, really nicely in the second half when Brighton were under pressure, and he showed himself available for the midfield players. That's what they want. They want to see the front man shown in a good area, making it easy for them to find him with the pass, and then when he gets it, keeping a hold and bringing it into game. He did that very well in the match. So I think you could say he had a good game today.
Yeah, just to finish, well, we know Graham Potter, the Brighton manager, he's a big fan of Aaron Connolly, he likes him. Not so sure about his opinion on Shane Duffy, who he doesn't seem to like too much, but he has him in there to start today. Maybe that's part of the rotation policy over Christmas. But what did you make of Shane Duffy's performance?
Well, I think Duffy got in today because there must be something wrong with Lewis Dunk. He always plays. He's the leader in the club, and he plays every match if he's fit. So the fact that Dunk wasn't even on the bench today, I don't think that was rotation. I think he must be either injured or ill, though there was no mention about that in the build-up. These things get lost around Christmas Day. What's happening, not everybody is informed or as investigative as they normally are on the media side, I think. So Duffy gets his chance, but look, it's no bother to him. He's a very experienced player. I mean, he himself and Dunk were nearly ever presence for the last few years in Chris Hughton's team. He's had less time on the pitch this year. He's had a few starts and a few substitute appearances, but he played well today. His usual stuff, his blocks and his bravery in the challenge, cut out a couple of really important cutbacks into the box. He was there first before Harry Kane, throwing himself around. He was involved in physical battles with Harry Kane as well, appealed for a penalty against him at one stage in the second half of the match, which wasn't a penalty. But I thought Shane played fine, did all right on the ball. Spurs tried to pressurise him when he had it, but it was a typical Shane Duffy performance. I don't know whether he's happier in the 2 or in the 3. Playing defensively. I think in the 3 he might be more likely to get dragged out of the central positions, in the wide positions, where his let's say his cumbersome shape would be more of a problem for him. But then you look at Dan Bourne, who's whatever 6'8" or 9", playing the left back position. He had absolute Webster, huge lad as well today, good on the ball. And running forward with the ball. So, Shane has had to adapt his game a little bit under Graham Potter. I think where Chris Hughton, in terms of shaping up, didn't mind the back four being quite deep and closer to their own penalty area. I think Graham Potter wants them to play higher up the pitch. And closer to the halfway line when they're in possession, and not be dropping back close to the goalkeeper, which is often Shane's instinct when he's playing for Ireland. He drops in, takes a step or a yard or two back, which often brings the defence back further and closer to goalkeeper, and means the whole team is less compact because the midfield players are dropping back, front men, and then we end up being kind of stuck deep in our own half rather than getting up the pitch a bit further.